Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pretty slow week. The Redskins played their first preseason game. We landed another exclusive player interview. We're now recording live in 3 states across the country, and the Hogstye had a presence at both training camp and Fan Appreciation Day. So, it's just business as usual. Join us today as we sit down and chat with 4-year Redskin Tyler Polumbus about the state of the team and their much-maligned quarterback, plus our usual informative segments and user polls. This is the quality of excellence you've come to expect, and it continues right now. We've got just a thin straight of preseason games to sail through before we head out to the open ocean of the NFL season. So don't you even think about abandoning ship. Stick with us for the show. Next.
Welcome to the Hogstye with your crew, Alex Zeese, Steve Thomas, and Robbie Duncan. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Our guest today is a long-appreciated former Redskin, host of the NFL Journeyman podcast, Super Bowl ring wearer, and, of course, massively huge fan of the Hogstye. Ladies and gentlemen, across the Washington metro area and here with me in Broncos country will certainly know the name of Mr. Tyler Polumbus. Tyler, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being on, man.
Yeah, it's good to be here, guys. I appreciate you having me on, and haven't done a Redskins-type interview in, probably a year or so. So, yeah, good to be back with you guys.
Well, beautiful, yeah. I mean, let's jump right into it. So, I guess we wanted to start in the context of what's going on right now. So, fans love training camp for obvious reasons. It's our first opportunity to see the players. It's like the time to get back into football. Do players enjoy it as much as we do, or is it just like a necessary evil thing?
Yeah, no, it's definitely not a moment in your life that you're looking forward to. You get July off, and you're at home with the wife and kids, and you enjoy it for about a week, and then the next 3 or 4 weeks, you're like, oh, here we go again, training camp. Right. Ironically, I dreaded it my whole life, and now this year I'm out at Broncos practice covering it for my radio show, and I'm out there every day, and it's killing me, man. I'm itching like crazy.
It's got to be better out there in Denver than it is here. I was at the Richmond camp yesterday, where it was 100 degrees with about 90% humidity.
Right. Yeah, no, I did that Richmond camp a handful of times, and that's pretty brutal, man. The one thing you could count on out there was you usually got the afternoon thunderstorms, so that usually helped you out for the afternoon practice, though.
Yeah, it's East Coast rain, but what you just said actually interests me a lot. You're a self-described NFL journeyman. It's the name of your podcast. But at the same time, you weren't a guy who was, a brand new rookie, trying to fight for the roster. What is the perspective of the NFL journeyman in terms of how you approach camp and how you're preparing and what you're trying to accomplish versus a guy who's, the rookie fighting for a roster spot versus the all-pro superstar?
Right. Well, first off, the NFL journeyman deal, that's a tag that while you're playing, you certainly don't want to be tagged with it. For whatever reason, a negative connotation comes with it. And, when you bounce around from city to city, fans and commentators, they love to harp on that like that's a bad thing. Well, the reality is, I just interviewed a guy, Ryan Harris, who I call my doppelganger in the NFL because we both started our careers in Denver and ended our careers. Well, actually, he's still going out in Pittsburgh, but we just had very similar career paths. He's in year 10. I played 8 years. He's on his 7th team. I played on 5 teams. It's like, well, that's a negative thing because you played 10 years. Well, you suck, buddy. So we just kind of embraced that deal for our podcast and figured, we just kind of make fun of ourselves a little bit and enjoy that tag. But as far
You're
as
taking it back.
That's right. Yeah, you got to take it back. You can't let people have the power over you. Yeah. So. Yeah, but as far as what's the difference of going into training camp, I don't know. I mean, I had about 3 years over the course of my career going into training camp where I knew I was going to be the starter going into the season, and it was a little bit less stress for sure going into training camp, knowing that you've got a locked up spot on the roster. That being said, I don't think anybody approaches this thing any differently. We've all got somebody younger, faster, and stronger behind us, and you'd be surprised how insecure NFL players are because you've always got somebody better behind you that you're just constantly stressed about playing well.
I can imagine.
Well, and first of all, just let it be known that all four of us would give our left arm to be labeled an NFL journeyman, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
So we're all very jealous of what you accomplished in your career.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it.
Well, kind of going along with that, I bet you hated the most, though, the hot shot rookies that, try to go hard every single time. And you're like, come on, man. It's camp. We're not trying to kill each other right now.
Right. Yeah, no, actually camp is about the one time where you can get away with that, where you fully expect everybody to be going full speed, but it's the week 13 through week 16 rookies that are going full speed. Those are the ones that'll incite a few fights. Listen, buddy, I get it. I get that Wednesday is your game day, but I'm trying to recover from Sunday, so I'm gonna need you to chill out here a little bit, buddy.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit how individual coaches kind of affect training camp, how their personalities and preferences and philosophies differ. Like Shanahan, from what we remember, was a little more lax. You guys didn't do as many hitting. How different was training camp under different coaches for you in your career?
Yeah, no, I mean the head coach's personality definitely makes all the difference in the world for training camp, and if it's miserable, if it's bearable, if it's even fun. And Mike has always been known as a guy that's taking care of his players, and we certainly love to play for the man because he understood what we went through, and he'd been around this game long enough to understand when we needed to hit, when we needed to back off, and he found a consistent approach in that. Jay Gruden, actually, his training camps are pretty similar to Mike's. It's not like Jay's out there crushing you. He's going to get you in, get you out. His practices will be a little bit longer than Mike's, but honestly, he takes care of the guys. I had Josh McDaniels out in Denver one year, and I mean, gosh, that was the polar extreme. On the other side, that was brutal. It was just absolutely brutal in every aspect. From we went full pads every single day, and this was in the old CBA when we could have 2-a-days all the time.
Sure.
So we'd have 2-a-days all the time. We were full pads the entire training camp, and then at the end of training camp, we all got a T-shirt that was like his little slap on the back, like, "Hey, good job, guys! Like, you got an Iron Man T-shirt because you went 31 straight days of full pads." And mind you, we came out the gates on fire that year, and we were 6-0.
Right.
But then we fell apart because nobody had anything left in the tank about halfway into the season.
So
exactly.
Well, I heard you guys talk.
Appreciation Day. I got a free T-shirt. You got the same thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you didn't even have to work for it.
No,
everybody won.
Yeah, we heard you. I heard you guys talking about the free T-shirt on your show when you were talking about that with Will Montgomery, which is kind of funny.
Right.
Do you still have the T-shirt, by the way?
No, I think I burned that thing. Not because it was Broncos, but because of the memories.
Well, as long as we're on the training camp topic, you don't let your guests get out of your show without telling a few good training camp stories. Tell us a good Mike Shanahan training camp story.
Oh man, I guess I got to think about that one. I don't know. The one thing that I loved about Mike was he, especially towards the end there after the CBA changed. First off, when I was with Mike in Denver, this was my rookie year, and so he could have us in full pads as much as he wanted. But he was one of the first coaches to take away 2-a-days back to back. So my rookie year, we would go 2-a-day, 1-a-day, 2-a-day, 1-a-day, and he was kind of on the cutting edge before he was told to do that. So he always took care of us. But the one thing I'll never forget was my last training camp out there in Washington. Mike, he gave us, we had about 3 to 4 hours off after our walkthrough and before our team meeting. And nearly every night he would say, "All right, guys, you got about 3 to 4 hours off here. You want to go grab a few beers? Go grab a few beers." So he's the first coach I've ever had that told me to go have a few beers in the middle of training camp, and we took advantage of it.
That's a good coach right there.
Yeah, that's right.
Priorities.
That's hard to believe. Honestly,
I'd like to jump back to something you said earlier about how you knew for a couple of years you were going to be the starter, and right. Obviously you were a starter here for a while in DC. What's it like though going into camp when you kind of don't know exactly where you're going to be on the depth chart? How different is your mentality as a player in that case?
I don't feel it's too different. At the end of the day, we've all got a job to do, and we've all got a job that we want to keep. Mm-hmm. So you approach it look, this is our livelihood, and this thing is very, very serious. And, it's stressful for sure. I wish that, towards the end of my career, I found a way to tune out all the noise and tune out all the stress. And, look, like Washington fans, they're not easy, man. Washington fans, that is a brutal crowd. I mean, there was a point in time where, honestly, I was playing my best football, and it was like every day I'm getting a death threat left and right between, hey, show up to work. I'll be waiting here with the guy showing me a picture of his Glock to, hashtag.
Really?
Are you kidding me? This is like every single day to hashtag hang yourself to, whatever. So, it's a stressful environment for sure. And Washington fans, they're tough, man. They've got high expectations and they want good performers out there. And you tag all that into an environment where you're honestly just worried. Look, do I got to move my family across country again? Am I going to have to tell my wife and kids, hey, pack up the house, pack up the kids. I'll meet you out in Washington like I did when I got cut from Seattle.
Right.
When you put all that into it, it's a stressful environment. So there's no way around it, whether you're a starter or not a starter, to just take this thing as serious as you possibly can. And you approach it one day at a time and try to approach it one play at a time and flush the last one. That took me a long time to figure out how to do that. It took me a long time to tune out the outside noise and tune out the fans and tune out the media and realize, look, my coaches respect me. My coaches think I'm a good player, and that's why I'm here.
That's all.
That's why they've gone to bat for me for the last 4 years. And that's the only respect that I need is my teammates and my coaches. So it takes a long time to get to that point.
Sounds like what you're basically saying is players really should not be on Twitter.
No. Yeah, I definitely went on a media blackout there for a while, and Twitter was a part of it. People get real brave behind their keyboard,
It's a dark place. It's a dark place.
Yeah. It's a wormhole.
We put microphones in front of our faces too, and get all kinds of fancy ideas about ourselves. So,
right,
it happens to all of us.
Yeah.
Well, let's, I guess now we could ask you a little, if you're willing, a couple Redskins-specific questions more about the state of the team now, if that's cool with you.
Sure.
Awesome. So I think we were going to ask about Trent Williams first, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing about Trent. I mean, Trent obviously is the all-pro, 4-time Pro Bowler. You played next to him or across the line from him for several years. What makes this guy so great?
Look, I tell everybody, I talk about Trent almost every day on my either on my radio show or on my podcast. In some way, shape, or form, Trent is always coming up in my conversations, and the reason is because he is the best tackle I've ever been around. I mean, hands down, that is the most gifted tackle I've ever seen in my career. I played with a lot of good ones, with Russell Okung, Ryan Clady, Trent Williams. Everywhere I've been, there's always been a star left tackle on the team. Mm-hmm. Trent's different, man. The guy is an absolute ant. Look, this is a grown man's game, and when you think of football, from a fan's perspective, you're thinking about, oh, this is a man's game. You got to move your guy off the spot, move him 3-4 yards off the ball. Well, look, here's the reality in the NFL. 90% of the time, you're looking at stalemates at the line of scrimmage because that's a grown man on the other side, and I'm a grown man on this side. Mm-hmm. And look, it's pretty hard to move a grown man off the ball, right? Exactly. Trent Williams is about the only offensive tackle I've ever seen that can literally control a line of scrimmage day in, day out, move his man off the ball 5 yards. I mean, I think back to the Packers game in, I think that was 2013. Does that sound right?
Year? Is that what
No. It was Robert Griffin, but
okay.
We were in Green Bay, and Trent had this one play where, I mean, he comes down, knocks down the 3 technique, puts him on his back, then he turns left, goes straight down the line. He takes out a DB, then he turns up the field and goes and finds a safety and literally picks this dude up and carries him 12 yards. And I mean, it was just the most. I've never seen a dude do something like that. He's an animal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, offensive linemen, being a former offensive lineman, I played in college, but offensive linemen are a lot more athletic than people realize.
Right.
But tell us how much more athletic Trent is than your average NFL offensive lineman. Because at face value, he's a freak.
Yeah, you're looking at I don't know what he's weighing these days, but he's probably 330 plus.
Sure.
You're looking at a 330-pound man that looks like he could run a 40 in like 4.8, you know, and he turns and maneuvers and he's agile. You know, when I see Trent get beat in pass protection, as a coach, I get it. Like, it's frustrating when you see Trent Williams get beat in pass protection, because I look at the guy and I'm like, dude, like, how do you ever get beat? Like how do you ever get beat? So, yeah, I mean, I get it. You just expect so much out of him because he's such a freak of an athlete that you don't expect that he could ever get beat.
You know, I mean, nobody can win 100% of the time. You know, though, I think it becomes news when Trent gets beat, and all of a sudden you see film clips of it, and guys like us are talking about it.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, Redskins fans got no idea how good they got it with that guy. I mean, he's as special a talent as you come around. Matter of fact, I mean, we were so predictable in our offense when it came down to short yardage and everything else that, look, we were going to go to the open side tackle and we were going to go to Trent's side. Like that's what we were going to do. And that wasn't even borderline offensive to me, because as the other tackle, like, dude, I would go to Trent's side also, you know, like he's going to move his guy 5 yards. So yeah, it's probably a pretty good idea. And you can get so predictable with a guy like that it makes your job as a play caller so easy that look, I don't care if you know where I'm going. I'm going to go over this guy and he's going to win no matter what.
Well, you know, Trent isn't, like you just said, Trent's so good, he's not really a system guy. I mean, Mike Shanahan was famous for the zone blocking system. Jay Gruden's adopted it a little bit, I guess, you know, here in D.C. What is it about the zone blocking system that it just creates superstar running backs out of guys who don't have the pedigree to be a superstar?
Well, yeah, the zone blocking scheme is, you know, it's different than everything I just described about Trent. Trent's kind of the I don't know. He's an anomaly of zone blocking linemen usually, because most zone guys, they're not big, they're not bulky, they're not the most strong guys in the world. Like, look, I survived my entire career not off of strength, but off my athleticism. And I was obviously a zone blocking specialist, and everywhere I went, I was hired by either Shanahan or one of his disciples that was running the zone blocking scheme. And so, you know, I know this thing in and out, and what we do is we are smaller, more agile, athletic linemen that we beat our men from point A to point B, and you stretch the field from hash mark to the other hash mark or the other numbers. So you're running so far, and the whole idea is you got to beat your guy from point A to point B. So I got to get in front of him. I got to create the leverage. I got to create the wall to create a seam. And when you run your guys so far, that's the equivalent, honestly, more effective than trying to move your guy directly off the ball 4 to 5 yards. When you run him sideways for 15 yards, you're going to create some holes there between you and the guard or the center. Somewhere along those lines, that's going to create some giant holes. So, you know, it relies on more athletic linemen that honestly aren't the mauling type like Trent.
You need the the quicker lateral moving lineman for that.
Right.
Well, and it's funny you say that, because I think if you ask the average fan on the street to name one thing about zone blocking scheme, it would be smaller linemen, small, fast linemen. But you know, you're 6'8". You know, you're not small even by NFL offensive lineman standards. So what you're saying is it's really a lateral agility and quickness thing more than necessarily a size thing, right?
Yeah, no, it's all just about athleticism. I mean, look, if you can be 330 pounds and be quick and agile like Trent, be 330 pounds.
Now, you're saying you definitely had the agility, and you're kind of more the intellectual kind of lineman. Is that kind of what you would say that made you unique as a tackle in that system? I mean, obviously, like you said, you went from Shanahan to you played under Kubiak and some other guys of Shanahan's.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, I was definitely in the Shanahan tree my entire career, except for Josh McDaniels, and yeah. I mean, I was definitely I was an average lineman. I was an average athletic body. I was probably above average athletically, but if we're just talking just about pure skill set, I was definitely very average. And I found my way onto the field every single year. Literally, there wasn't a year that I started on the bench that I didn't find my way into the lineup at some point in that year. And the reason I did was because I was always the most accountable guy. Look. Coaches knew, put Tyler in the game, you're probably going to have to deal with the fact that he's going to get beat 2 or 3 times. He's probably going to get beat 2 or 3 times. But the one thing you will never, ever have to worry about is, does this guy know where he's supposed to be? Does this guy know the assignments, and is he going to be mentally accountable? And yeah, so I was the most accountable guy in the things that I could control. And athletically, if there was a guy better than me and he exposed me, yeah, look, that was going to happen, but I just tried to be an accountable guy, and for whatever reason, I always found my way onto the field.
Hey,
you did.
Now, we were talking about the zone blocking scheme, but when the read option kind of got introduced with Griffin, did that kind of did they have to change anything for you guys as far as linemen? Like, or is it just you're still kind of doing the same things, but how do you know who's going to have the ball? All that kind of like. Did anything have to change for you guys?
Well, yeah, it was much. I mean, that was foreign territory for me. None of us had ever run it, and we were studying.
Many people in the NFL had run it yet, so.
No, yeah, we were pretty much brought it in. Seattle was running it a little bit, but yeah, look, we were studying Baylor film. We didn't even have NFL film to watch. So as an offensive line, we're watching Baylor offensive line, and we're trying to learn what they did with Robert. And so yeah, there was plenty to learn. And no, you never knew who was going to have the ball, and so that made it challenging as an offensive lineman because I didn't know who was going to have the ball, and so I didn't know if it was going to go on my front shoulder or my back shoulder, and that made it challenging. All that being said, I mean, that was one of the most effective offenses I've ever been around, and I sure wish that we could have kept running it.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
What do you think? Griffin blew out his knee in the Seattle playoff game in 2012. Did he come back? It appeared to the fans that he lost a lot of speed and agility coming back. In 2013. Did you see that? Playing with him?
Well, look, he'd been through a lot. I mean, he'd blown out his knees a handful of times now over the course of college and NFL, and he'd had some serious injuries. So, I think it's hard to expect a guy to come back and be the same person that he was after major injury. That being said, Robert's still got plenty of athleticism. He's still got plenty of speed. His straight ahead speed is, that's world class. And,
right.
Maybe if he lost something, maybe it was in the agility side of it, just because it's harder to cut and plant. That being said, he's been out for a while now, and he's had plenty of time to let that thing recover. So it'll be interesting to see what he does this year.
Who are you most tired of talking about? Robert Griffin, Trent Williams, or Kirk Cousins?
No, Robert's certainly the one that gets brought up the most. I love.
Peyton's got to be thrown in that conversation, right?
I'm sorry, who?
Peyton. Peyton's still got to be in that conversation.
Oh,
too,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Peyton's in that conversation too. Definitely out here locally. He's he was the talk of the town. He was the GOAT to the worst quarterback in the world last year. If you listen to the media and the fans about how horrible he was, and so everybody had an opinion of Peyton, and all I knew is I got to play with the Hall of Fame quarterback last year, and that was pretty cool. So,
we obviously have our own massive quarterback debate here going on. Still to this day, it's Griffin versus
There's a
Cousins.
debate out there?
Yeah.
Dude, you have no idea. There's more Browns talk than there's ever been in Redskins conversation.
Never-ending siege.
I thought you were saying between somebody that's on the team right now. I
don't think anybody thinks that Colt McCoy should be starting over Kirk Cousins. What did you see in Cousins in practice? Did you see a guy who had the potential to be a starter? I mean, none of us did. We talked on this show about replacing him.
No, come on. If you're talking about replacing him, you need a new show.
Well, no, we're talking
about 2 years ago.
Yeah. Kirk's I've been singing that guy's praises for years. I mean, from the second I saw this guy in a preseason game, the guy knows, he takes command of his huddle, he takes command of his guys. He gets the ball out. He knows exactly where he wants to go with it. Look, he's an offensive lineman's dream. And, as an offensive lineman, the only thing you can ask for is that where the quarterback's going to set up, and that he's going to get rid of the ball on time. And, look, I don't care who you are. I can't block anybody for 3 seconds. So if you hold on to that ball for 3 seconds, dude, you're on your own. So you hold on to that thing for 3 seconds. Be ready to get sacked because we're all human out here and we can't block them that long. Kirk Cousins, man, he's an offensive lineman's dream. He's a wide receiver's dream. He's all about timing. He's all about consistency. And yeah, man, I mean, I've been singing that guy's praises for years.
Let me just clarify something real quick. Steve is the one that talked about replacing him, not me.
That was not this year. That was at in the last offseason. I wondered whether or not he was going to be good enough. I just like to clarify.
Look at him cover his tracks.
Yeah. Look at him. He's getting nervous.
Well, he wanted to fire.
Stuttering.
Steve was on the fire everybody bandwagon last offseason. So
I was really mad about Jay Gruden. I'm not going to lie about
that.
All right. Well,
all right.
This is a good time. Can we just ask you, Tyler, to put it out there straight up right here, right now? What do you expect from Kirk Cousins this year? And by extension, what are you expecting from the Redskins?
Honestly, I think the Redskins have made a mistake in on the way they handled him. It's interesting to me. It's like they're gambling on him to fail almost. It's like I just can't understand. You got a guy like that, you can lock him up at a reasonable rate that is not going to crush the future of your franchise. And I don't know what they're saying. Either number one, they don't believe in him, or number two, I don't know what they're wanting out of him. Because if he goes out there and he balls out, I mean, you're talking about paying this guy over $100 million that you could have gotten him locked up for something much less. I fully expect Kirk to have a great year. I think you put the right pieces around Kirk, and I think you're talking about a long-term franchise quarterback. Long-term.
Yeah, let's hope.
Well, that's music to our ears.
Yeah, it is. So, Tyler, we really appreciate your time. We're about to wrap up here in a second. I just got two fun questions to wrap up with. One of the big culture things, at least when I was in college, in our locker room, was quoting movies. We were all just like, it was like a second language, quoting different kind of movies, comedies and stuff. And it appears that's been the case with the Redskins past couple of years too. Was that the same for you guys? And so what was your go-to movie to quote?
Logan Paulson. He's probably carrying that. Those guys, Logan and Chris Cooley, back when he was there, they started the movie game, and it became this, like, you'd say an actor, and then you'd have to say a movie, then a different movie that somebody else was in, but you didn't know what actor they were talking about. So you could go in any direction, but you just had to keep moving on the movie chain based off an actor that was in the previous one. Okay. And those guys, they know their film out there.
That's awesome. And then one thing that came out back Roberts and Kirk's rookie year was how Kirk, for his rookie skit, had a really good Shanahan impression. He never did show it to the media, though. It never got out there for fans to see.
Yeah, maybe after he gets that $100 million contract.
That's right. So you can confirm that it was legit.
Oh, it was phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal. As a matter of fact, we made him come back in his second year to do it again because it was so good.
Oh.
Somebody needs to get that on a cell phone video next time.
Yeah,
it's out there somewhere, I promise you.
Well, but now that Mike's no longer there, I don't know if half the team probably wouldn't even get the references or something,
No. Yeah, well, it takes some moxie as a young rookie to come out in your rookie skit and go straight after the head coach,
Oh, yeah. No wonder Kirk had to sit out the first week.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's what caused him. That's what caused Griffin to start over him. Yeah, for doing that.
Sure.
It's all getting revealed with Tyler Polumbus on the show, I'll tell you. All right, well, thank you so much again, Tyler. This was awesome. He's at Tyler_Polumbus on Twitter. And Tyler, where can people listen to The Journeyman? I was listening to it on Stitcher, but where else can people find your podcast?
It's on all the platforms. The easiest way to find it is just go to NFLJourneyman.com, and you can hit the subscribe button up there. I'm doing it with another former lineman from the Redskins, Will Montgomery, great friend of mine, and we do it remotely, and we talk a lot of Redskins and a lot of Broncos, obviously, because those are our two former teams. And we interview all our former teammates. We've had 2 Redskins on there already. We had Logan Paulson and Ryan Kerrigan, drawing a blank here, the Captain America.
Very nice.
So, yeah, plenty of Redskins talk over on NFL Journeyman.
Awesome.
Beautiful. All right, well, you heard it.
It's fairly new, right?
Yeah, we're about 5 or 6 episodes in.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, you heard it here, folks, ladies and gentlemen. Check that out, of course, and give Tyler, obviously, a follow on Twitter as well. Tyler, thank you so much, man. We'll let you go.
All right, guys. See you.
All right. Take care, man.
Thanks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. That was a pretty sweet interview, fellas, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that was great.
I was really nervous about this one, but, it went great.
No, he was super chill, and that was really good, insightful stuff he gave us too,
and
about locker room stuff.
This brought a lot of perspective to me, because as a fan, before we started doing this, I mean, I don't know any fan listening to this also was a big hater on him, at some point. So, talking to the guy and, really getting to know him for a little bit, you gain perspective that, this is a guy living his life. He was, making a living as a journeyman, traveling to team and, earning his way as a NFL lineman, making a career of himself. Mm-hmm. And so you got to realize that these people are human too. Players,
right.
Players, you kind of forget that they are human.
Right.
I thought it was kind of interesting that he both said he was an average player, but also he pointed out that he worked his way onto the starting roster every single year, basically, that he played.
Yeah,
which was like 10 years. Yeah,
well, I don't think it's fair to say that he's an average player either. I mean, he was a long-time starter. Yeah, he was a long-time starter. Played 8 years. I don't think that's average.
Well, but I think he recognizes he's not going to the Hall of Fame. Is kind of how he's looking at it.
Yeah.
No, I thought the interview went great. I was really nervous about it beforehand just because of other stuff going on in my life. I didn't have time to really prepare. But I thought it went great, and I look forward to actually listening to the show and maybe having him back on at some point.
I think what are the takeaways? Number one, he preached the gospel of Trent Williams.
Sure.
I think more than anybody we've had on before. He preached the gospel of Kirk Cousins.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a bit. So I think all that bodes well for Redskin fans.
Yep. We need to get him back on just so Sean can have a friend out there in Colorado.
Yeah, I forgot to ask him about the places to eat. I can't keep eating Sonic every day, guys.
Well, yes, you can. Believe,
yeah, you're
Sean,
right.
Believe.
I totally can. In fact, I'm immediately headed there after this. Let's be honest. But moving on from there, Steve, maybe you want to take us through our user poll for this week.
Yeah, well, the user poll had to do with preseason game.
Sound more excited about it, Steve.
I didn't realize I wasn't excited. I'm very sorry.
Say it with your chest.
The user poll this week had to do with the preseason game, which the Redskins just played against the Atlanta Falcons last Thursday night. The question was, the preseason game won us tonight. What result will make you as a fan happy? Results were, the results were, we have to see a win to be happy. That's not the results. The choices were, we must see a win in order to be happy. Second choice was, I'll be happy if our ones beat their ones. The next one was, if the team just kind of looks good for 4 quarters, win or lose, I'll be happy. Or the last choice was, it utterly doesn't matter at all because it's a preseason game and who cares?
Yeah.
That sounds like something you would say.
This is a tough one.
And I can't say anybody was happy with that game.
Well,
no.
I was happy with the one.
There were highlights and stuff to point out, but overall, not a very good preseason game.
No.
Week
1 is
what do we think?
tough.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So the poll results. Let's just announce the poll results this time.
Just say who won.
Yeah. The 40%, our ones beating their ones would make people happy. So that was the prevailing choice. 32% was the second place choice. It doesn't matter at all.
Mm-hmm.
Third was team looks good for 4 quarters. That'll make them happy. That was 25%. And bringing in the rear at 3% was I have to see a win in order to be happy. So that was how the fans feel.
That's the stupid opinion, though, is if you're really, really dead set on seeing a win week 1 of preseason, then, you need to chill out, take an Ambien or something.
So to our fans, 3% of you're stupid.
Yeah. Which is probably accurate.
With all due respect.
Yes.
With all due respect.
No, I have no respect for it. If you actually care about wins and losses in preseason, you're crazy.
Well, week 3, right? That's all that it matters.
It's a context thing. If we win because of the circumstances, then yes, I'd be happy with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a context thing for sure.
Yeah. So let's get into our thoughts on it then.
Yeah.
Let's just dive right in.
Oh boy.
Offense. What do we think about the offense? I mean, my thoughts were.
Where's the running game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where is it?
Exactly.
Where's the improvement?
Why the fucking penalties?
Oh well, the penalties. I almost blacked out on them, and the who was doing the play-by-play? Chick
Hernandez.
He was going off on the refs by that fourth quarter. That was hilarious.
He doesn't hide his opinions during broadcasts.
No.
He doesn't play it.
Nice.
Yeah, he doesn't. He's not black and white. He's right in the gray area.
No. He and I think he comes from. I might be wrong, but he comes from the old radio personality kind of mold, where
he definitely has a lot of personality.
Yeah, Yeah, I love that.
Well,
fun.
where they were allowed to actually have personality.
Broadcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk running game first, shall we?
Yeah.
Since we're on offense. The running game with the first stringers was terrible. It was non-existent whatsoever. I don't think any of us thought that the offensive line blocked very well in the run game, but I thought Matt Jones looked indecisive.
Yeah.
Keith Marshall looked indecisive. To the extent he was out there with sort of some of the more the starters. I think what I've realized about Jones is that if there's a hole there, a big hole, he can hit it. But if there's not a hole there at all, he's just done. Yeah. He's not a guy who's going to ever be able to create.
That was sort of Morris, too.
Yeah, and see, the biggest problem, too, I saw was the offensive line was having overall, just a terrible night. Mm-hmm. Morgan Moses was getting bullied by Vic Beasley in pass pro. He didn't look good in the running game, got called for a hold. Mm-hmm. And by the way, that hold, you everybody can go back and see that it really wasn't a hold. But like I've been pointing out his entire career so far, last season up to now, he's always grabbing guys right at the outside of their shoulder pads when his hands need to be on the inside at the numbers. And that's where he's getting all these holding calls and getting beat, because his chest is exposed when he does that. Defensive linemen, boom, they go right for that chest and can, just knock him back. Mm-hmm. He has to fix that hand placement or he's going to get beat consistently.
And that's what got the hold on that play. On the one play too, his left hand was on the right shoulder of the defensive lineman.
His hands were too outside, and that combined with the defensive lineman, selling the hold, it was an easy call. It may not actually have been holding, but that those two things combined made it an easy call for the ref. So he has to fix that.
And I'd like to point out that was the hole too, was right over Moses. Right. And that was what sprang Jones on the play.
He should have been called for an actual hold. A couple plays later, the play where Nsekhe got beaten, got Colt McCoy drilled. That wasn't a sack, but he got Colt McCoy hit. Morgan Moses got schooled by Vic Beasley on a double move and basically just wrangled him down to the ground. And the refs missed it. Surprisingly, they didn't throw a flag on that play. Mm-hmm. But he had a terrible game, and I'm very concerned about him right now. I don't want to say that he's regressed, but I have to see a lot more from him in the next game to be a little more happy about him. But I'm very concerned about him. And the other aspect of the running game was Spencer Long was getting pushed back too. The big TFL. I think it was. I want to say it was Keith Marshall, his first run. Spencer Long was just pushed back into Marshall's lap.
He got pushed back like 3 yards.
-1 yards on the game in 5 carries.
Robbie, talk about Ty Nsekhe, because Nsekhe got beat, a couple times in pass pro. What'd you see in him?
I was disappointed in him. This was not characteristic to Ty Nsekhe from what we've seen of him up to this point. I think he just had a bad night. I want to say the same thing for Morgan, because he's not had a game like that. He didn't have a game like that last season. So I want to, I guess, pump the brakes a little bit on my criticism of Morgan too. But yeah, both tackles did not have a good night. Nsekhe definitely wasn't as bad as Morgan was, but he definitely got beat a couple times and kind of looked like he kind of just. It was just a lapse in technique that he usually plays really well with.
Looked like he was getting really grabby with his hands, and he, instead of setting a base, he would reach out and just sort of
lunged a little bit too.
Yeah, that was what got him beat. From the Kirk Cousins perspective, obviously he was 5 for 5. It was kind of more of the same in terms of what we've seen from him before.
A lot of dink and dunk.
Dink and dunk, quick outs. That kind of thing. He didn't go downfield. It's not. We kind of saw what we expected to see. I think.
Yeah, it wasn't anything spectacular. He looked smooth and efficient.
But he didn't look panicked when he was doing it. It was very purposeful. It's not like he was throwing these guys because he was under pressure.
Right.
No, that was the play call.
They were wide open, and that was the best available.
Trevor Madge pointed out the one curl route he threw to Pierre Garçon on that. How efficient his timing was on that play.
Yeah.
Because if he hesitated the slightest, that play would have been incomplete. But he delivered right on time. Boom, I think it was a first down on that play. I can't remember exactly, but the timing and efficiency that he showed with little that he was given was a good sign, I thought.
Sure.
Yeah, well, and if you move on, obviously, I think maybe the star of the offense was Rob Kelly. Later in the game, He looked good, and you have to take into the context because he was playing against threes and fours, on the Broncos defense, but he looked decisive. Unlike Jones and Marshall, he looked decisive. He hit holes cleanly, and he took what was there. And got positive yards almost every time.
Yeah, that's what's going to get you, reps with the 2s and 1s. You keep producing, you're going to get your shot. So, but even then, I mean, yes, he was against like the 3s and the back end guys of the roster, but the guys that were blocking for him, they had to block the guy in front of them, and the back end offensive linemen did better than the starters did. In that regard, they blocked better against who they had to go against than the ones did. So, yeah,
I mean,
you got to take what you're given.
It matters if you go against the 1s or the 3s, but I mean, let's be honest. Like Alfred Morris played his way onto this team by playing well against the 2s and the 3s. That's how it works. You got to take what's available to you, and if it's available to you, you just take it. And you can't just preface it by saying, "Oh, they're bad players that he's playing against."
Well, and I do think Alfred Morris was better than Jones with taking what was there. Alfred Morris had a pretty good knack, certainly in the beginning, for at least getting positive yardage out of a situation that was a nothing play.
Right.
And that's what Jones hadn't showed us so far, and he didn't show it Thursday night either.
Well,
not at all.
Morris, at the very least, always fell down forward to get you that extra yard.
That is true.
Jones just gets knocked sideways.
Yeah.
Brian Mitchell pointed that out too.
Yeah.
A lot of the backs, besides like Mac Brown and Rob Kelly, did this little shoulder turn. Even Matt Jones did a little shoulder turn after he got a couple of yards. When a safety came up to him, he did this little turn to them instead of just
going
ducked his lunging forward.
Yeah, instead of playing with low pads and trying to truck guys over, he kind of just folded.
So I don't want to move on to the next game yet, but do you guys think it's too early to say that Brown and Kelly deserve at least a few reps in the next game with the ones?
Well, they're going to get reps in the game with the ones.
Fair. Oh yeah, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Give them each
Why
at
not?
least one carry with the ones to see if they do more than Jones is doing.
Because Mac Brown had a couple good carries there too. He looked. He did some damage in his limited opportunities.
Yeah, I'm all for giving other guys a shot. I haven't seen that much Jones to be attached to him.
They need to put Sean Laval back with the ones too. I don't think Spencer Long is showing anything to be the starter. Laval, I think, is our best left guard on the team. Well, I predicted, he's going to be that guy.
I wonder if they're just holding out him and Trent Williams just because it's preseason. They don't want to risk anything right now.
Well, they had Laval in the second half.
Yeah, he played with the 2s. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
He played with the 2s. I mean, Coach Gruden said that Laval's going to have to earn his job back. Is what he said. So, I agree with you, Robbie. I think, in the times that Laval was in last year before he got hurt, the running game looked decisively different. They're decidedly different.
Yeah.
So, and the other star of the offense, Rashad Ross, got, I think 45 snaps, I believe, or 45% of the offensive snaps, rather. He did a lot of good. Ryan Grant got his share. I continue to not totally understand the fascination with Ryan Grant, but he was out there. The starters didn't get much play.
I want to point out
Jackson.
I want to point out, PFF kind of brought him out more. I know you hate that, Steve, but it made me pay attention. It did make me pay attention to him more in the preseason game. Mm-hmm. But when I saw of Austin Reeder, the 3 center, he had a good game. He blocked really well. He opened up some holes. He was very solid. I saw a pancake out of him on one play. I liked what I saw of him. I was kind of impressed, actually. I don't know if that's going to push him up on the roster more, make him be the immediate backup behind Lichtensteiger instead of Spencer Long getting reps there. But I liked what I saw of him, and people are kind of starting to pay attention to him more because of that, what PFF said.
When you see him in camp, he is physically, one of the more dominating people out there.
And he did beef up before camp. He was one of the guys they mentioned put on a good amount of weight and muscle. So,
Yeah.
I'd like to see him get some shots with the twos.
Mm-hmm.
Is Laribas just done at center, Robbie?
I think Laribas is on his way out. I think you got guys that are better than him at this point, and that's just how
he
it
did
is.
an average to below average job at that position last year. So
yeah. Well, he was just filling in because he had to.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say let's talk about defense.
Yeah.
You want to talk defense?
Let's go defense.
Here's my two gripes. You guys tell me.
Quentin Dunbar.
Number one. Well, yeah, but number one, we got zero pressure on the quarterback basically the entire night.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
And then number two, I think our defensive depth is going to be a real problem. Because I thought our defensive fronts, aside from the lack of pressure, the starters did okay against Atlanta. Understanding it was the first game,
did
and
Matt Ryan
they
have a completion.
Don't know.
I think he had a. They certainly didn't do well. But once the 2s and 3s came in, Atlanta started moving the ball. Yeah. We kind of got schooled, so it made me concerned that we don't have the depth along the defensive front 7 that we thought we did, or that some people thought we did.
Well, I half agree. I would say along the line, maybe, but I'm not worried about our depth at like inside linebacker because, frankly, there's just very little drop. I mean, no one's a Pro Bowler, but we have very little drop off from Will Compton to like Perry Riley Jr. They're both slightly above average to average players. So, I'm not.
Well, yeah, there's not a lot of drop off because the ceiling isn't very high.
Right. I mean, the ceiling's a little higher, but my point is, it's not like you have a guy in there who shouldn't even be on a football team. At the same time.
Yeah.
I'm just very concerned about the lack of pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, and I understand that. I mean, I think we had one play where they got some pressure on Ryan, but that was about it.
Well, we did get, I think, some pretty good pressure on design blitzes, but straight up rushing, no, we didn't get a lot. But I want to point out some highlight players on the defense, some guys that really showed well. First off, Preston Smith. The reps that he got, I saw a guy who's ready to step up and take the load, with Gillette being out. He had a great
run contain.
Oh, he was amazing against the run. Worked his guy, set the edge, and then shed the block to make the tackle for no gain, and then he set the edge again. He looked like an all-star out there. I thought, he's a really good pass rusher, but you want to see an overall game to his, to him. And I saw really good run support from him. Mm-hmm. And as much hate as he gets, I thought Trent Murphy did pretty well that night too. He was really good against the run, made some good plays there. Obviously, he's not creating pressure in the pass game, but we need run support. I mean, it was a big problem last year, and he was doing really well there.
Well, we do need run support, but we need a pass rush, though.
Oh, I agree.
We can't just not have a pass rush, and we just don't have an elite pass rusher. It doesn't look like.
But see, what I think they're going to have to do is when they need a pass rush and it's 3rd and long passing situation, you'd have Kerrigan and Preston Smith setting the edge, running, being the edge rushers, and then I'd have Trent Murphy and like Chris Baker or rotate someone in for Chris, whatever. But I think you need Trent Murphy in the inside rushing on those type of downs. I think he could add to that. But you guys want to talk Stuart Cravens?
Yeah,
let's talk Stuart Cravens.
Good game, didn't he?
I'm very excited about him. That dude, like we saw in film, we talked about him back after the draft. The dude is a smart, instinctive player. I mean, Gruden highlighted the fact that he was in places that he wasn't supposed to be due to his defensive assignments, but he's a playmaker. If he's going to find the ball, he's going to be there to make a play or be at the ball to support the team. I'm very excited about what we have in him. I think.
I was going to say I agree with you. I think the word I was thinking was playmaker because he kind of has a knack for being around the ball, and a knack for being around where the play is. Mm-hmm. And that's something I think the defense desperately needs is a guy like that.
And he plays 100%. Like he's not just like slowly figuring things out then going. He's boom, full speed ahead. You know, it's really really fun to watch.
And it's really evident when you see him that his ability to his vision on the field is incredible. That bat ball he had at one point.
Yeah.
That was, I mean.
Yeah.
I
Very
don't know
quick.
We never bat balls
that kind of
down.
reaction time.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
The Redskins never bat passes. I love that.
I think we'd be remiss in not talking secondary as long as we're talking defense. We didn't see much out of Josh Norman. He was barely on the field.
But he looked great from what we saw.
Yeah, for a few plays he did.
He shut it down for 3 plays.
Breland was out there for a little bit, but I think that the names obviously that stuck out were Quentin Dunbar and Greg Toller. In terms of defense, obviously Quentin had a bad game. Aldrick Robertson beat him twice.
Right.
Toller, I thought, looked very good. Toller plays very, very tight coverage. Looked great, I thought.
Toller's been killing it all camp. I mean, the preseason just showed how good he's been. He's been locking down guys, and man, I'm very excited with the depth we have with him too.
Right.
And Dunbar, obviously he's still figuring things out. He's still a work in progress.
With Dunbar,
He had a bad game. I'm willing to give him the benefit.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if that's just a matchup problem for him too. I mean, he's for Dunbar,
or just a coverage breakdown. Maybe he thought he had safety help and
he
didn't.
Neither of those big plays was there a safety around.
True.
Yeah, I mean, he looked really out of position on that one pass to Aldrick that almost was a touchdown. But I wondered too if it was just a couple bad plays. Was the whole game really that bad for him? I don't know.
Duke Iannaccio had a good game too. He was looking like his old self before he got hurt. I'm pretty happy with our safety depth, really. I mean, besides at least at strong safety, I think Bruton and Duke Iannaccio is a pretty solid 1 and 2.
Right.
No matter who is starting.
Second free safety to speak of.
At this point, I can't see Greg Toller not making the roster.
Yeah.
And so what we're really talking Breland, Norman, Toller, Fuller. Those 4 are just guaranteed locks to make the roster. And so, Toller, now that Toller's played himself on, you're really talking about, Blackman, Carrington, Harris, Deshaun Phillips, Quentin Dunbar, 5 guys playing for one spot at this point.
Blackman's a safety now, remember.
Did I say Blackman? I'm sorry. Yeah, so but 4 guys playing for one spot. He was Blackman's on the wrong spot in my list here.
He's kind of that hybrid thing. So,
and Phillips, it looks like Phillips is having a pretty good camp as well. So it makes me wonder if Quentin Dunbar may be a fan favorite that may not make it.
I would be very surprised.
But here I'll tell you why he will. In my opinion, he's when I've been at camps, he's been the guy on special teams who's been their go-to gunner. He's really he's a big special teams guy, and he does well. Like when I'm looking for little things on special teams, he's not the guy getting beaten. He's the guy winning his matchup every time. So
was he out there for that one play?
Well, I don't know if he was out there for. You mean the kick return?
Yeah, McKisson or whatever the guy.
I didn't go through and count who was out there, but I'm talking more punt duty.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that's fair. Either way, special teams definitely, obviously needs help. Hopefully, he can provide that. It's nice to hear that you saw him doing well in training camp.
Yeah.
Our punt team doesn't need help.
No,
that's for sure. Right. Tress Way is
booming him.
If that preseason game is any indication of how he's going to be during the season, he'll be the All-Pro punter. He's going to be killing it.
Plus yarders.
He's a bam.
I mean, he could be setting a record if he's putting him 60 yards a game in live games.
Well, yeah, that's not going to happen every game. We're going to meet some teams that've got good punt teams, which is going to bring the net down and everything. But certainly, I think he's doing very well. And he's living up to his big punter contract, for sure.
Another guy that stuck out to me was Martrell Spate. I thought he did really well. Him and Cravens were a good duo. Both of them were flying around the ball and making some good hits too. I mean, that's what we know Spate can do is deliver big hits. But what
was interesting?
He looked like he belonged out there. Like he's a smart, instinctive player as well.
What was interesting about Spate is they had the pregame video that the Redskins put out in which Spate was the guy that broke down the linebacker group before they walked on the field. Which very much that surprised me quite a bit. And he kind of had a London Fletcher sort of tone to what he was saying. So maybe he has some leadership qualities that we weren't really aware of.
Well, go back and watch his college highlights back when he his senior year at Arkansas, or even just watch a game of his. The guy he's that hype man. Like when he makes a play, he's raw emotion, screaming, shouting, gyrating all over the place. I mean, he gets into it. Like when he made a big hit, there's one play I remember he was on kickoff, made a big hit, and he just was so pumped up. He's very raw, emotional player. So yeah, I definitely see, at least by example, leadership qualities. Because he can get the rest of the guys, energized and kind of give them some motivation type thing.
Totally. Well, should we go back and talk about some other? I feel like we missed some positions.
Well, we forgot to mention tight ends. Obviously Jordan Reed didn't play in the game, and so what we saw was Niles Paul and Vernon Davis. Vernon Davis dropped the sure easy touchdown in the end zone.
He was doing that for his last team. Goddamn it!
That was disappointing.
Yeah, it hit him dead in the hands. It was a perfect pass from Colt McCoy, and
However, Vernon Davis, I can't remember who pointed it out on Twitter, but Vernon Davis run blocking.
Yeah.
He was mauling guys. There was one play where he just drives his guy like 5 yards to the left next to Inseki and pancakes him. That's why he's here, because he adds that. He's not a one-dimensional player. I mean, he can block guys and really add to the running game. Plus, he can be a receiving threat if need be. That's why.
Because his speed looked pretty good. He had some burst to him still, and so that was encouraging. Niles Paul was barely on the field. It looked like he kind of tweaked a knee or an ankle or something there.
He hyperextended it.
Yeah.
That's what they said.
Careful, Niles. Careful, bro.
Yeah. Luckily, we came out pretty healthy. And what is the number one thing you want to see in every preseason game? Come out healthy.
Health. Yeah. And we'd be remiss in not mentioning Nate Sudfeld, I think. Sudfeld looked pretty good in his time.
Yeah. He looked a lot better in that game than he has in camp, in my opinion.
Exactly. I thought the same thing. He's I guess one of those guys that's a gamer. May not practice well, but when the lights are on, he's on a different level.
Robbie, let's be honest. All you and I have said about watching him in camp is,
yeah.
And by the way, thanks for giving Tyler Polumbus the idea that I was trying to get rid of Kirk this year, because that's clearly not what it was. I was talking about that last year when he looked terrible, not as the season went on. No. So thanks very much for that. I appreciate it.
We're just trying to keep you accountable, Steve. We're just doing our job. That's all it is. Stir the pot, exactly.
Yeah.
I did bash Jake Gruden though pretty good. I'll admit that.
Yeah. You gotta own up to that, Steve.
Yeah.
Well,
so all
right. Should we chat about next week, or what do you guys want to do?
Yes. Let's talk.
Let's chat about next week.
And there's
all right. So we've got our big, we've got our big next game against the old New York Jets, right? So they played the Jags this past week. Wasn't exactly a pretty game for either team, but do we have any big predictions, hot takes on what it's going to look like for us?
Running game's not going to have another easy task. I mean, Jets have a really good front seven, really good defensive line, so they're going to have to, really step up and show that last week's, effort was just a bad night. That's the biggest thing I want to see. I want to see big improvements on the offensive line's performance. I want to see solid running attacks. I want to get 5 yards, 4 yards. I don't want to pass. I want to see a good running game. Right. That's basically what I want to see.
I just don't think Jake Gruden has it in him. Honestly, Robbie, I really don't. It just doesn't seem like that's his thing.
Well, no, but because of practice and how it's how you do it now, you can't hit as much anymore. It's really hard to practice the running game because you don't have pads on as much. Right. So preseason's really the chance to really iron out your running game and get everybody kind of in sync and flesh out how what you got to do. And I really want to see them run the ball a lot because they are going to need a running game. As much as Gruden doesn't like to run, as it appears, you need a running game to support your quarterback.
You can't win in the end unless you're Tom Brady. Which let's not think Kirk Cousins is Tom Brady. I know we've seen the comparisons by the Kirkistans
Joe
out
Theismann.
there. Jai Theismann and a few of our Kyrgyzstan, fans out there, but he's not Tom Brady. But you can't win in the NFL without a running game. We have to have a running game that can get some, 4 yards a carry. Somehow, some way, we don't have to be a pounded, grounded out, running team all the time.
No,
but
you got to keep them on.
We have to have an effective running game. We just don't have it right now. We didn't have it last year. We don't have it right now, and it's not going to get easier against the Jets, as Robbie said. They've got the tough defensive line, defensive front sevens, very stout. It's going to be a tough road to hoe Friday night.
It's a good preseason game to have on your preseason schedule, because they have exactly what you need to work on.
And I think
point.
the starters are going to play a few more series than they did this week against the Falcons. So, I would assume we'll see maybe 3 or 4 series from the starters on offense and defense both.
I feel like in the '90s you always gave the starters the first quarter in this game, but it's now changed to they do it series by series. So 3 or 4 is probably about a quarter, though, right?
But yeah, approximately.
Yeah.
By the way, obviously, I think everybody knows that Rex Ryan is gone from the Jets, and the head coach of the Jets is old friend
Todd Bowles,
of the team, Todd Bowles. Yeah,
That's right.
Yep.
So hopefully
we'll
he's
see a
successful, but the team is not.
Yeah. Oh, I think we'll see a less brash, obnoxious attitude from the Jets as a result.
No, we see Rex Ryan in the next week after that.
And with Buffalo. Yeah.
God, any predictions, by the way, from you guys of who's going to play quarterback for the Jets this coming season? I thought we had some interesting results from this past game. I mean, who knows? It was good and bad from kind of everybody who played in this past. I don't know if you guys saw the Jets game, but
I didn't see it.
I did not.
Good and bad from Geno, good and bad from Fitzpatrick. I mean, it was. I have no idea who's actually going to earn that spot.
What the Jets did with Fitzpatrick is absurd. They kind of botched that in the most royal way they could have.
I kind of agree with you there.
Having him hold out for as long as he did.
Well, it seemed like the media made Fitzpatrick into the second coming of Peyton Manning or something, and the guy, Fitzpatrick himself is a journeyman quarterback.
Right.
He's not anybody's answer, to creating a Super Bowl team.
No, he's
he's a good
quarterback too.
Yeah, he's a solid player, but he's not going to lead a team to the promised land or anything. I was surprised that it was made out to be as big a deal as it is, because oh my gosh, God help us, we don't have Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Well, but
tragedy strike.
When your other options are Smith.
Yeah, Geno Smith. Let's be honest, Mr. Smashed Jaw himself.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I got a couple quotes here from Kirk Cousins. He was at the podium today after their practice. Pretty interesting quotes. Basically, he says that he wants this team to be the San Antonio Spurs of the NFL. He wants to be. Where was the? Oh, sorry, 1 second. I told my teammates I want to be the San Antonio Spurs of the NFL. Be super boring, but quietly rack up wins.
Mm-hmm. So not a lot of superstars.
Okay.
But you just keep on making it into the playoffs year after year after year.
And also mentioned I guess one of the media people asked him about Sean McVay possibly being in the booth calling the plays. So they may or may not be having it. They're, I guess, toying with it.
Interesting.
Well, that quote you read is a very Kirk Cousins kind of thing to say, isn't it? I mean, he's a humble guy. He's a good guy. He's not brash. He's not outspoken. And for him to say, let's become the San Antonio Spurs, that is Kirk Cousins' personality. And listen,
I'm cool
I think
with that.
We Redskins fans, yeah, absolutely. We'll take anything. If you win, we'll take anything.
Yep.
Except when he's frothing
I'd rather have a humble.
Who's our Tim?
Frothing at the mouth, screaming, "You like that?"
Who's our Tim Duncan?
Oh,
if we become the Spurs.
I don't think we have anybody at Tim Duncan's quality level right now.
Yeah,
someone with no personality,
Duncan's an all-time great,
and elite skills.
Yeah.
we don't have that.
And a quiet
nobody on the
team
Redskins.
leader.
Yeah. Nobody on the Redskins is an all-time great like Tim Duncan.
No. I mean, there aren't many Tim Duncans in pro sports. Period. So,
no.
that's a tough one to find.
Tim Duncan is really the Tim Duncan of Tim Duncans, if you think about it.
He's the most Tim Duncany Duncan there is. Sorry,
You
Rob.
can't get
You may have found a title. Is that a title to the show, perhaps?
It's too many Tim Duncans in that sentence.
No, I mean,
Tim
we
Duncan
tend to
is very Tim
title
Duncan. He needs to...
shows with interviews after the person who was on the show. So
That's true.
yeah,
That's fair.
real quick, since Robbie brought up camp, I was at camp yesterday. You guys know, a couple things that really were kind of fun to watch. Jay Gruden, I was right at the 40 front row this time, as opposed to sitting back in the chairs. Jay
Nice.
Gruden really is a joy to watch coaching. He gets as into it as the players. He was actually playing corner a little bit against Deshaun Jackson and some of the receivers when they were practicing. He wasn't
I'm sure
playing
that
tight
went well.
coverage or anything, but he was
Jesus Christ.
he was playing soft against Deshaun Jackson, which is kind of funny to watch. At one point, he did try to go for a pick. I think it might have been against Grant. It was against somebody with a teen number.
You went
he
for
got
a
hand
pick.
on it. But,
Oh, I love that.
yeah,
Wow.
Gruden is a lot of fun to watch at camps. If you've never been down there and just watch him, listen to him, he's goofing around with the guys as much as he is being serious.
He's a jokester.
He is.
Good.
Yeah.
They must have a good relationship. I mean, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex, next time you're at camp, for goodness sakes, if you see Jay Gruden lined up against Deshaun Jackson, please film it.
Yes, please.
That's something we just that we have to let the public see, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think I did snap a photo of it. I didn't get video.
Oh my God.
Let me.
Was he in press
Amazing.
or was he off man?
No, he's always off. This is when the quarterbacks are just doing the passes to the receivers without an actual corner on them. So at one point, Jay's just standing there bored, and he just starts going out and chasing after the receivers, just to make sure that they're running the right way.
That's funny.
Jesus. Amazing. Well, that's a story to tell your kids.
Yeah.
Jay Gruden covering, D-Jacks. But anyways, maybe we'll wrap it there, folks, unless we have any more hot takes the last second here. Otherwise, we will see you next week where we'll have another preseason game to discuss. So good times ahead. Like I said, we've got 3 games, and then it's the fucking NFL season, fellas. Can you believe it?
I'm
Yes,
excited.
I can't wait.
Thank More than
Long
ready.
enough. Yeah, it's been long enough. So stick with us on this journey, and we will be back in NFL football soon enough. We'll see you next week. Take care.
All right.
Poodles.